All right, everybody. This is that one travel guy, Albert. Happy to see you guys here in the new year 2020. Hoping to bring a lot of good to a lot of people this year. So we're going to be talking about, what are we talking about? Yes. We're going to be talking about how to fly cheaply. When I did a poll last year, after I posted my first introductory video, the thing that people were wondering about most, meaning all two people who responded, were how to get cheap airfare. So I'm just going to give you a few basics. This is really simple stuff, and we'll just go from there. So this time, for like the first time ever, I actually wrote down what I'm going to talk about. So, cheap airfare. That's what we're talking about. So I'm going to give you three main principles to go off of. So the first one is flexibility. The second one is deal finding. And the third is award travel. So I'm just going to go through a few different scenarios, a few different stories of things that have happened in the past with me and with friends and family. So when I talk about flexibility, I mean flexibility in two areas. The one is dates that you're traveling, and the other is the airports which you're traveling in and out of. So we'll start with dates. So I want to talk about this concept that I like to call blanket coverage. What blanket coverage means is focusing on a day or day that you want to visit a destination and then covering it with a blanket that can move around. So you're giving yourself flexibility. So if you're wondering kind of what that looks like, I'll show you some examples. Here is, this is my super duper handy dandy blanket coverage chart. So if you look here, this example is July 2019. We have the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th of July here. And our focus is to be somewhere on the 4th of July. So now we have different blanket options that we can lay over. So this is the 3rd to the 5th. We have the 2nd to the 5th here. And we have the 4th to the 6th over here. So being willing to be flexible in how you blanket the days that you want to be somewhere is very important when it comes to this idea of blanket coverage and flexibility of dates. I'll show you one example here on Southwest. So I'm actually looking at the 4th of July here on my computer, and I'm screen recording this right now as well for you. So if you look here, if you were to come in on Thursday the 2nd, you're going to have that flight for $89. And then you could be leaving on the 4th, but you don't want to do that because it's when the fireworks are. So if you're leaving on the 5th, that's $170. That's a lot compared to $79 or $89, for example. So if you're willing to stretch one more day, if you can figure out a time to come early in the morning, then you can save yourself $40 per ticket. So that means $80 if there's two of you, $120, and so forth. Or if you're able to go one more day, you can drop that price easily in half plus some change on that. So if you were to leave on the 2nd or 3rd, for example, get there on the be there in time for the 4th, and come back on the 7th on a Tuesday sometime, you could find a cheaper flight. Also, there's a potential if you could leave on a Wednesday, that'd be 3 days of time off there and 2 days there. So that'd be a 5-day off trip, but you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, so an entire week essentially of your trip. So other things to think about when it comes in terms of flexibility is maybe you couldn't take Wednesday off work, but if you find a Wednesday night flight, it's pretty much the same as a Thursday morning flight in terms of your work schedule. So you could always sneak out after work and fly in the evening to get somewhere. We do that a lot. Another thing you could do is if your work has flexible hours, you could fly back in early in the morning on Tuesday before you get back to work. So when I talk about blanket, that's what I mean is adjusting that blanket around the date that you want to be there, which would be the Saturday the 4th, and then being flexible. And you can always find cheaper flights if you're willing to not fly direct, and if you're willing to have crappier itineraries, meaning leaving earlier in the day or arriving later at night or anything like that. It goes down to what is worth your cost to you. One example is we flew to is either Arizona or Salt Lake from Portland, and we changed our flights on Southwest by 1 hour leaving. So we left 1 hour earlier and arrived 1 hour later into Portland, and we were able to save enough miles or dollars to basically get a one-way flight to California from Salt Lake. So in that case, that extra hour on either end was totally worth it to get another flight in the future. If you need to take time off work or out of school to go see something, give yourself a range to play within, but don't take any time off work until you have bought your flights, if at all possible. Because what you want to do is have that flexibility first, just kind of know how many days. So Diane and I often would count up and project my time off all the way through the year. So we could say, here's how many potential days I have to work with in each month of the year. And then if we schedule a trip, we would just subtract that and say, now we only have 5 working days since I took 3 in PTO. So it's a good way to kind of project your time off if you have a job that allows you to do that. If not, and you're stuck to planning months out in advance, often you can find deals on airfare up to 8 months in advance for international, and maybe 6 to 8 months domestic as well, just depending on the circumstances. So always book your flights first and be flexible with your dates, and then take the time off that you need to go on your trip. So that would be my first suggestion there, is blanket coverage of the dates, so flexibility in the dates that you're traveling. So the next principle in flexibility is airports. So 2 scenarios. The one was a friend of mine, a coworker, shout out to my man Chancho, last year wanted to take his family to Hawaii. So we were looking at flights out of Salt Lake general area to go to Hawaii. There's also within 5 to 7 hours of Salt Lake, there's also the Denver airport, there's Idaho Falls, there's Las Vegas, also major airports that you can find flights out of. And so we were looking to find as cheap of flights as possible, and often you can see variances of up to $100 more between different major airports to go to a destination. So in the case of my friend, he actually found flights out of Las Vegas to take his family to Hawaii, and ended up saving over $300 to $400 doing that, including the gas that he spent to drive his family to Las Vegas. And in turn, they were also able to add a little extra time on both ends of their trip to go see some friends and family down in Las Vegas. So that can add up really quickly. You want to see if it's valuable. If you have some time to give, then you want to see if monetarily that's going to be valuable. That would be flexibility in the departure airport. Now we're going to talk about the flexibility in your arrival airport. So when Diane and I fly to Canada, which we do, I would say an average of once a year to see her family, there's 2 airports that we can fly into. One is Great Falls in Montana, and the other is Calgary, Canada. And that's because her parents live smack dab in the middle of those 2 airports. So we're going to compare prices with those airports, and sometimes when the price is half to fly into Great Falls as they are in Calgary, then it's kind of a no-brainer. You're talking, $600 versus $300 to fly somewhere. So there's a huge savings there. But then, we have to take other factors into account, like can someone come pick us up from Canada, or should we rent a car and go across the border? The one time that I flew Diane out there for a wedding, the cost, including her rental car and flights, was still over $200 cheaper than it was just to fly into Calgary, not counting transportation or anything like that. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're going to a destination, another good example is if you want to take your family to Disneyland, you actually have about 5 airports available to you to get your family to Disneyland. You have LAX, Los Angeles, you have Burbank, you have Long Beach, you have Ontario, and I'm struggling for the other one. Anyway, so there's a multitude of options there. You could even fly into San Diego if you really wanted to. It'd be about a 2-hour drive. So you just have to weigh the pros and cons there. So that's a way that you can potentially save hundreds of dollars on your flights. So flexibility with departures and arrival airports, and flexibility with your dates. So when I talk about deal finding, this is just about ways to find deals and be alerted of deals. So if you live in Salt Lake, Flights from Home is a really good way to find deals. Flights from Home is a company that they go through and they just scour the internet and watch for flight deals to come in to destinations all over the world. Great resource. Other ones that we use are Scott's Cheap Flights, Pomelo Travel, Travel Zoo, Secret Flyer, Just Get Out of Town, All the Flight Deals, Groupon. Sometimes if you want to package up a vacation and have it all kind of put together for you, is another option you can look into. That's kind of Travel Zoo's approach as well. There's a lot of different deal finding sites. If you ask me about premium versus regular memberships, really a regular membership, regular meaning free. If you have a free membership, you'll be alerted of deals, but this is more kind of if you're just wanting to go on a trip and you have no destination in mind, you can be alerted of a deal to go anywhere, but you're going to find about 75% less deals, and they're not going to be usually the best deals either for your money. I would always recommend getting a premium or paid subscription to one of these services if you have a place in mind that you want to go, because then you're going to get alerted to all the deals. Then there's also just subscribing to airline newsletters. So since in an earlier post I talked about anytime you fly to join that rewards program, we get Alaska Airlines and Southwest Airlines emails quite often, and we get alerted of all their sales. And this would happen with any airline that you want to fly with. With these two airlines in particular, they'll do these huge sales for weeks at a time where they'll have departure cities you can choose from and arrival cities, and you can find all kinds of deals. And that's been super amazing for us flying Southwest, as we've been able to get to California under $100 per person round trip from Salt Lake, which is just fantastic. So some amazing deals that we've found. And let's say that you want to take your wife to Hawaii for an anniversary trip, right? Or to Cancun, or I don't know, to Europe, something like that. I've seen all these different places people talk about taking their spouses. And you want to go there at a certain time of the year and you want to fly out of Salt Lake. It is worth the $25 to $50 a year subscription to find that exact deal that you're looking for, to get a very high, a 75% higher likelihood of getting that deal and saving up to $700 or $800 on your airfare for a $50 investment than it is to just keep things free, miss out on all these deals, and just hope that randomly you'll see a really good deal to that place in the time that you want. So I highly endorse these travel deal email subscriptions because they are worth the investment immediately. The other thing is Diane and I actually have our own independent email account that we use for travel deals, so they don't come and litter our regular email inboxes and make a big mess. Then we can just keep our eyes on them and delete all the ones that we don't care about. And it's a shared account, so we can both peek in at it any time of the day. So award travel essentially comes in two ways. You have shopping or dining portals with airlines. So like Southwest or Delta, they have dining portals and shopping portals. So if you go online, you can use a plugin, or you can go to a website, and let's say you want to buy something on Kohl's, like you want to buy clothing or something for your bedroom. Then you would go through their shopping portal, and then you would buy the thing from Kohl's, and you would get points back for buying that thing through the airline, right? So you can start to build your airline miles. That's kind of a slow way to build, but it is an effective way to build. The other way to build points for award travel, so airline points with different airlines, is through credit cards. And I'm going to talk a lot more about credit cards soon. But there's a lot of groundwork I want to lay before there. But the opportunity to grow points for award travel with credit cards is fantastic. It is by far and large the easiest and fastest way to gain large amounts of airline points to then be traveling for free using award flights to anywhere you want to go. So those are my three main tips for cheap flights. So again, flexibility, so blanket coverage with the dates, and flexibility in the airports you're flying out of versus the airports you're flying into to get to your destination. So that's flexibility. Then deal finding, so subscribing to one of these flight newsletters or having emails from airlines. And then award travel, so the ability to be awarded for money you spend on dining or shopping through an airline, or looking into credit cards. Also guys, I mentioned a lot of stuff in a short amount of time, so I'll make sure to link those sites and things that I've mentioned in the video description below. So check that out for more information on that. And please subscribe. I have so much stuff to talk about. So hopefully this gave you guys some ideas. I'm really excited to talk about this more in the future. Anytime you have questions or other things you want to talk about, just hit me up. We will talk to you later. Hey.